kama uongozi wa UDA kiongozwa na chairperson wetu Gavana Barire. Tuko vile pia na kiongozi wa walio wengi katika bunge Mheshimiwa Kibani Chungwa, na wabunge ambao tutawapatia nafasi waongee hapa, na maseneta ambao wametuunga na sisi leo hapa. Leo tumekuja kwanza kongamana na jamii yetu ambayo inaishi nchi za ughaibuni, katika nchi za ughaibuni, na inaitwa Diaspora, na tuko hapa tumewakaribisha sana. Mnajua jamii hiyo ya Diaspora ilisimama kidete na rais wetu William Samoei Ruto na naibu wake Rigathi Gachagua wakati wa uchaguzi. So leo tumekuja tu kwanza kukongamana nao, kusemezana nao na kuangalia ni jinsi gani chama chetu cha UDA kinaenda kuhakikisha kwamba kimetimiza ahadi ambazo tulipeana wakati wa campaign kwa masuala ya diaspora, mambo ya passports, mambo yao ya kurudisha pesa katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, na mambo mengine ambayo tumekubaliana na mengine ambayo tayari yanaanza kufanywa na rais wetu mpendwa. So tutawapatia pia nafasi, wataweza kutuongelesha, lakini vile vile tumekuja hapa pia kukashifu yale maandamano ambayo yalifanyika jana yakiongozwa na wale wenzetu wa kule Azimio. Tungependa kusema kama chama kwamba sisi kama serikali tunafanya yote yawezekanayo kuhakikisha kwamba tumesaidia nchi hii imerudi mahali ilikuwa mwaka wa 2013, lakini tunarejeshwa nyuma na ile maandamano ambayo sio ya amani. Uliona jana wakibomoa critical infrastructure, ile super highway yetu, ile express highway yetu imebomolewa. Tunasema kwamba Raila Odinga, sio lazima upoteze maisha ya vijana wetu, sio lazima uharibu mali ya watu wetu ndio uonekane kwamba unaweza ongoza Kenya. Tafadhali Raila, kuna mambo ambayo hayawezi badilika na inafaa tuambie ukweli. Jambo la kwanza ni lazima ukubali kwamba William Ruto ndio rais 2022 hadi 2032. Hiyo tukubaliane hiyo kwanza. Hiyo haiwezi badilika kwa sababu IEBC ilishamtambua kama rais wa jamhuri. So hata ukifanya maandamano kiasi gani, usijifiche nyuma ya kuandamana ati bei ya unga imepanda. Bei ya maisha na gharama maisha imepanda dunia nzima. These are global problem. And therefore upatie rais wetu nafasi aweze panga serikali yake, aweze saidia wananchi wa Kenya. And therefore tunasema kwamba tunakashifu vilivyo, na tunasema hatutazidi kuruhusu mambo haya yaendelee. Tumekuwa very tolerant, tumeweza ongea, lakini sasa tumepanga. Tutasema kwamba ni lazima tusaidie wanabiashara wetu ambao biashara yao inaharibiwa kule Kitengela na nchi yote. Ni lazima tusaidie wale vijana ambao wanapoteza maisha, na tumeweka mikakati ya kutosha kuhakikisha jambo kama hilo ambalo lilifanyika jana halitafanyika tena. So chairperson wetu ataweza peana official statement ya chama, alafu ile majority ataongea, tuwe na mtu mmoja kutoka katika nchi za ughaibuni, alafu viongozi wetu wote watasema neno angalau waweze kashifu tendo hilo. Asanteni.
Very much good evening everyone and the members of the media. This is the statement by the UDA party on the heinous atrocities observed during Maandamano yesterday, the 12th of July 2023. Our attention has been drawn by the orgy of violence leading to death and wanton destruction of property resulting from protests called by the Azimio leader Raila Odinga. UDA party condemns in the strongest terms possible their abhorrent acts of violence and the destruction of property perpetuated in the name of protests. We note with concern that unlike before, when the well-orchestrated violence was witnessed in some predictable parts of the country, the perpetrators of these heinous crimes imported the mayhem to other parts of the country. It concerns us that the protests and acts of hooliganism were well organized and exported to parts of Makueni, Machakos, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, and Kisii, which have traditionally remained calm, but where violence and death were reported. Overall, the protest resulted in the following. 1, 9 lives were lost in Mlolongo and Kitengela. 2, destruction and looting of Eastmart and Quickmart supermarkets in Kitengela and Mlolongo. 3, attack on the Kitengela Chiefs camp. 4, more than 36 injured and hospitalized. 5, KEPSA has estimated that Kenya is losing on average 3 billion every day of violence out of the violent demonstrations. 6, deliberate attack on the country's critical infrastructure, Thika Superhighway and Nairobi Expressway. The intention was to close down the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and then blatant looting of businesses within Nairobi CBD. And 8, we saw Azimio MPs actually celebrate the destruction and the violence that we witnessed. This state of anarchy is not about the cost of living anymore, but one person who has refused to accept his election loss. Although the Constitution allows Kenyans, every Kenyan, to peacefully picket while unarmed, what we have witnessed in the country cannot in any way be described as peaceful protest and picketing. What happened in parts of the country on Wednesday was pure economic sabotage by non-political mercenaries with ulterior motives aimed at reversing the upward economic trajectory that has been driven by the Kenya Kwanza administration. It is sad that as a country, we have allowed Mr. Odinga to run amok by fanning violence anytime he is defeated in an election. The latest episode of the violence in the guise of protesting the rising cost of living was one of the many evil schemes by the opposition leader and his sponsors to bulldoze his way into government and to ensure that the transformation agenda by President William Ruto is muted. As he has been described before, Mr. Odinga has lived up to his reputation of being the Lord of violence by always sponsoring violence while rubbing his hands in glee as people lose their lives. The country must stop treating Mr. Odinga, his sponsors, and the perpetrators of the attack with kid gloves and instead let him bear the full consequences of his murderous acts. What Mr. Odinga and his allies are doing is tantamount to terrorism against the very own people he purports to be fighting. Section 2 of the Prevention of Terrorism Act defines terrorism as unlawful use of violence or threat of use of violence with the intent to advance a political, religious, ideological, or other such cause, and includes any unlawful use of violence. It is therefore clear that as neo-leaders behind the wanton destruction of property and acts of lawlessness and loss of lives are guilty of terrorism and must be held to account. We ask the government, machinery, law enforcement and judicial officials to take decisive action on those found culpable for this barbaric act of violence. Thank you very much. I now ask the Majority Leader of the National Assembly, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, to add on to the rest.
Thank you, members of all the states, and maybe just to re-emphasize that indeed, as a party and as a Kenya Kwanza coalition, we are vindicated that Mr. Odinga is living true to his character and name as the Lord of violence and the master of anarchy in this country. So we wish to state that what we have seen and what has been christened as protests picketing and demonstrations over the cost of living have nothing to do with peaceful protests, have nothing to do with peaceful demonstrations, nor picketing, but what we are now witnessing as a country is a campaign of anarchy and economic sabotage that is sponsored by the masters of state capture, who to date are yet to believe that their puppet in the last general elections lost the election. And they now seek a hand in the new Kenya Kwanza administration through blackmail, anarchy, and bloodshed. And we should pose the question to them. Both the Lord of Violence, Master of Anarchy, and his sponsors, who are well known, if you purport to be protesting on behalf of the people over the state of the economy and the high cost of living, how do you mitigate that by sabotaging the same economy? How are you dealing with economic challenges to the ordinary Mwananchi by stopping that Mwananchi from going around their day-to-day hustles through this campaign of economic sabotage and anarchy? How does the destruction of our economic activities witnessed yesterday and the days before deal with the cost of living? It is quite clear that after every election, Mr. Odinga has found it fit to use bloodshed and anarchy to negotiate himself into power. He's now joined by his sponsor, who to date is yet to believe, as I said, is not in power, and his puppet never got anywhere close to power. And you can see the hands of the sponsor in the activation and mobilization of Mungiki gangs yesterday. If you speak to residents of Kitengela and Mlolongo, they will tell you there were mobilized gangs of Mungiki. And the sponsor of Mr. Odinga has been a commander of that Mungiki gang for years known by Kenyans. You have seen the leaders of Mungiki standing like armies or like generals in an army behind Mr. Odinga in all his public engagements. And that is why we flinch no eyelid today to tell Mr. Odinga that your campaign of anarchy, your campaign of bloodshed and economic sabotage will not go very far. Kenyans know you, Kenyans know your sponsor, and you must be dealt with decisively. And that is why we have called on our government to deal with Mr. Odinga, his sponsor, and all the other economic saboteurs with the full force of the law, and nobody should be spared. Not Mr. Odinga, not his sponsor, not the marauding gangs of Mungiki and other goons that they have mobilized. Nobody should be spared. Lastly, we have all witnessed the losses that this country suffered yesterday. From young children who had to suffer because people are running into schools, to students and young people yesterday who could not make it to their schools, all in the guise, as I said, of peaceful demonstrations. There was nothing peaceful in the demonstrations. Mr. Odinga has no history of ever holding any peaceful demonstration anywhere in this country. Therefore, we want to tell him, since we know you, Mr. Odinga, since we know the intent of your sponsor, and we know what campaign you have engaged in, spare the Kenyan children from the pain that you are taking them through. We dare ask to Mr. Odinga and his sponsor, how much more bloodshed do you want to see? On the 7th of July last week, 6 Kenyans lost their lives. Yesterday we hear about 7 Kenyans lost their lives. 9 Kenyans. How many more Kenyans do you want to see dead, Mr. Odinga, for you to get what you are looking for in the name of a nusu mkate, or a share in government, or a hand in government, to be able to cover up the massive looting that you supervised? Your sponsors carry out in this country in the run-up to the last elections. And Kenyans know them. And because they have been asking what is government doing, we want to tell Kenyans to be patient. Government is doing what it ought to do. And neither Mr. Odinga nor his sponsor, nor those who are engaged in state capture and looting of our economy, will use violence, bloodshed, and anarchy to derail government from pursuing them, or derail government from reviving the economy that they destroyed. In closing, let me say, Mr. Odinga and Mr. Kenyatta, you know it is you two that got this country to where it is today. Give President William Ruto the time and the space to fix your mess. He has the ability and capacity to fix that mess, and he will. And as Kenya Kwanza leaders, we are here to reaffirm our commitment to ensuring that the country is peaceful and in supporting the current administration to get our economy to where it ought to be. Azina mengine. Let me welcome Mr. Ireri, who is a representative of the Kenya Kwanza and UDA Diaspora team in the US.
Asanteni sana. Kwa majina mimi naitwa Samuel Ireri. Natoka mahali panaitwa Siakago, with the tallest member of parliament, I guess, from where our chairperson leads the Embu County. But my residence currently is in Minnesota, and we came as a team from all the states and diaspora to come and first and foremost show some support and be very thankful. Before I start with our protocols, our chairperson, the majority leader, Secretary General, the members of parliament, the senators who are here, as well as all the other leaders and secretariat of the UDA, and you, the press, we want to thank you for this opportunity to give us and discuss a few things. First and foremost, we came here as a team to thank His Excellency the President and the Kenya Kwanza government. They did promise a lot of things that we've seen that have been delivered. And these things have actually not been told out there to majority of our diasporans. So what we see on social media is very different. And we can all attest. I landed here yesterday at 6:25 a.m. with a plane. Half of them were tourists. We were just very few Kenyans. And they're all coming to Kenya. So they know there's something about Kenya and how the government is running that is working. And then apparently, after having light breakfast in the evening, going for dinner, I passed through the same road and I couldn't believe it, what was going on. So in as much as we came to say thank you to the president, thank you to the party, what the party has done for us, we first and foremost want to talk about the big elephant in the room, which is maandamano. We strongly condemn, as diasporans, as Kenyans, we strongly condemn what is happening. We follow in the footsteps of what our chairperson has said, as well as the majority leader, that one life is too much to lose. One life is too much to lose. And from where we sit, As Kenyans, we cannot sit back and see our country burned because of one person or just a few people who are taking our country the wrong direction. And they don't want to see the progress that has been started and going on. And Majority Leader Order can even say the most thing that they fear is where this country is going to be in the next 5 years, where this country is going to be in the next 10 and 20 years to come under this administration. So we want to first and foremost, before we even talk about anything else, condemn that. One of the things that we are committed to as Diaspora is to make sure where we live, we're going to lobby our local government and the governments that's there. Number one, to bring sanctions. And I repeat again, to bring sanctions against the people who are operating this mandamana. We know they do enjoy a lot of, we know they enjoy all the money they take out of this country. They go buy houses where we live. When they come on vacations, they live like kings and queens. Whereas when they come here, they want to hide behind these issues of high standards of living. Whereas when they come into the US and wherever they come to visit, they live like kings and queens, right? So we need that money to be brought back to our country, and we're going to ensure that is done. I do promise that we will use all our resources, whatever we have, all the power that we have to lobby. We know we have a lot of Kenyans who have gotten into Congress, into Senates, back in the US and other countries. From today, henceforth, we have stated that in as much as we understand what the government is trying to do, and I will tell you, you guys are very diplomatic. You know, in other countries, this could have been solved by they're funding these things and they're up there. So for us, we'll go ahead and start that lobbying. We do promise we will deliver on that. We'll make sure that all the international countries, all the other countries can see and pinpoint where we are. We've seen our president has been applauded all over the world. He's leading not just Kenya, but Africa itself. He's at the forefront, and we want that to continue, and that's how Kenya is viewed out there. Now coming back to what brought us here. As I mentioned, we came here as a team, the leadership team from Diaspora. We have our UDA and Kenya Kwanza leadership that, we all came here. And the key thing was to thank the president because we have seen he has delivered on what he promised the Diaspora when it came to the plan. One of the key things that we've been fighting for as Diaspora is to have a department of Diaspora Affairs that can deal with our own issues. Because the bureaucracy was too much when we were going through all the government offices. Now we have a PS, Madam Rosalyn Njogu, who's one of our own. And we thank that the president for that. We have seen what has come with it. We just wrapped up mobile services, consular services. Over 3,000 Kenyans were given passports right away. We also had over 1,112 IDs delivered within a very short period of time. One thing that also even changed, we did see that our kids who were born in a different country were able to go ahead and bypass some of the things, the bureaucracies that were there for them to gain Kenyan ID. And I do promise you one thing we're doing with these kids is to ensure that they know their motherland, they're able to visit here, they're able to start investing here, putting their money here, and Kenya to continue. On the other side too, we also want to thank the office, our chairperson, that you have recognized Diaspora is key part. And no other party has done this, where we have been given a director for Diaspora Affairs. We do thank you very much for that. He's one of our own. He's also a diasporan, and we have seen the work that he has already started doing, that he's doing a wonderful job. We also want to partner up with our party, not just to ensure that it's the biggest party, the most known party, the party that will outlive us, but it's a party that where other countries can come and benchmark about this party. We have seen, as you can see, the leadership of our party is young people. Even the leadership that we have for Kenya Kwanza in diaspora is also a majority of them are young people too as well. So we have a vision, we see where our party is going, and we thank His Excellency, the President and the Deputy President, as well as our Chair, for leading us in the right direction. A very small thank you that we did, that we couldn't do much, especially for the party. We decided, as you can all see, we have construction going on. So we decided, first and foremost, we're going to go ahead and just furnish the office of the President and the Deputy President. Make sure that when he comes here, and when he comes and sits on his desk, he can remember Diaspora. And he can see that we worked hard for him. We worked hard for this government, and we are thankful where it's taking this country in the direction that it's taking the country. The other thing too, just to wrap up on this, is to ensure that we as a party have committed. We will, whatever happens here, hapa nyumbani, on the party grassroots, we're also doing it in diaspora. Our members of diaspora, you know, they remit a lot of money back to Kenya, and we want to make sure that they feel they're part of this economy. And by doing that, is the party starting, sisi wenyewe, charity starts at home. Whatever we're duplicating here, we want to put it on a bigger platform. So all diaspora, regardless of party affiliation, they feel that this government is working for them. Because they can feel that. Those people who got the passports and IDs are not just Kenya Kwanza people. They're all Kenyans, and we'll ensure that the party continues to deliver with that. With that, we want to thank you very much. You've hosted us very well, and let's keep the work going. And we also thank the President for that.
Pandora Papers ndio hiyo. Mpaka Pandora Papers. Kuna watu wa Kongo. Thank you members of the state. My name is Thank you members of the state. My name is Gitonga Mukonji. I'm the member of parliament of Manyata constituency in Lembu. I'm also the organizing secretary, Kenya Young Parliamentarian Association. And I want to take this opportunity first to congratulate our diaspora people for their warm show of goodwill to the government. And at the same time, I want to actually say congratulations to our police officers because of showing resilience during yesterday planned hooliganism. I also want to say congratulations to our president because he has shown a face of mercy when dealing with this gentleman called Raila Amolo Odinga. I want to say that it is a big shame, and I want to say this as a young parliamentarian. It's a big shame that one of the people who claim to have fought for the second liberation is the one that is leading economic destruction. Yesterday, close to 1 billion Kenya shilling was lost. And this is the same money that is supposed to go and reduce the cost of living. I don't understand Raila Amolo Odinga for his call to have mandamandos and destruction of property at the same time, claiming and telling the government to reduce on the cost of living. That is double standard, and it should be called out. At the same time, I want to say that we need to actually take a step at this country, that anybody who is involved in issues that involve destruction of this country should not be given a chance to vie for presidency or any other seat ever again. And by that I mean, we have seen people who vied for presidency, including people like Wanjakoya, moving around trying to tell our young people to take banking. It's a big shame, and we have to condemn it in the strongest term possible. Thank you very much.
Let's try to be brief so that at least more of you can be able to say something. But let's each take one minute so that.
Yes, thank you. You're welcome, our chair. Most welcome our other states. My name is Maina Karobia, Member of Parliament of East African Legislative Assembly. I'm also a young person and a member of this party. I come here as a concerned Kenyan before I even come as Member of Parliament. That Raila Odinga is using the youth of this country as cannon fodder for pursuit of his own personal selfish political interests. And we are going to call him out and tell him that there's a generation. We are not ready to be used. We are not ready to be martyrs of his selfish political interests. the young people of this country, all that we want is to be engaged in productive sectors. We are not interested in being engaged in destructive activities such as maandamano that Raila Odinga is using to blackmail and intimidate the government that we voted. I also want to say that Raila Odinga is not owed anything by this country. And it is time he realizes that his time is up. He needs to retire because this is the fifth stab for presidency that he has actually lost. He needs to usher in a new generation, not using young people as protesters or as people that he can use to blackmail government and pursue his political interests. It is time that he sees young people as people that can lead this country, the productive areas of development of our nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, members of the press. My name is Obaro, Member of Parliament of Garissa Township. I want to say this, that this country today is dealing with a madman by the name Raila Odinga. The issue is advancing that the cost of living is not there. Raila's interest is a way to get to government and to the State House. And he must understand, and we want to bring his attention that will not happen. The State House is being occupied by a gentleman by the name Honorable William Samoei Ruto for the next 5 years, or maybe even 10 years. You also remember that in the last government, after 2017 election, after the handshake, the current president, who was the deputy president, who was holding a constitutional office, was technically knocked out of that office by this group. You must understand, and you must remember that William Ruto did not take up arms, did not resort to violence, did not go to the streets, but he started planning for 2022 elections. What Raila needs to do is to prepare for himself for 2027 elections, not to bring violence to our country. Again, those who are protesting, claiming that it is their right to protest, must also understand we other Kenyans also have our rights. Their rights to protest stops at where ours begins. Yesterday, we did not go to school, our kids didn't go to school. That means they are interfering with our rights. We couldn't come to work. They were intimidating us. They were destroying properties that is for public use, which I was supposed to use, but I couldn't use because of the violence they have committed against us. We are asking the police to protect us from these youths who are hired and sponsored by Raila Odinga. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Kagombe, Member of Parliament of the South. And I want to tell Raila Odinga, the unpleasant sound that Raila is emitting as he hops from one Azimio gathering to another is a little tiny app, the sound of a laptop. It cannot deter any government from doing its work. And I want to say, the love affair between Mr. Odinga and Mr. Odinga is fodder for thespians. We have seen everything that he's doing in this country just for self-aggrandizement. He has used our people. I want to tell you, we are tired now. And at this point, all the evil that have been perpetrated in this country have been done by him. And when I see Mr. Kalonzo and Mother Karua and Raila Odinga, I see Mr. Here No Evil, Mrs. See No Evil, and Mr. Evil himself. We are not going to allow this. And this government is going to stand very still, and we're going to deal with you, Mr. Odinga. Hakuna mtu akona mtoto kwa mgongo hapa. Tomorrow, come again, we shall now deal with you. We are tired. We are trying to establish your capacity or lack thereof, and we have realized you have no capacity. We shall now deal with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much. My name is Wakili Gates in Agomech County, and we've come here to condemn what we saw yesterday. We've come here to affirm the position that Kenya Kwanza, we have a firm government in office, and there is no something that is most likely to come forward. What we witnessed yesterday is akin to terrorism, and we are asking Raila Odinga and his team that time is up for them to accept the fact that they lost the election and they are in the opposition. They have an important role to do, and if they are able to do it, we will not continue accepting the destruction of property and losing lives of very many innocent Kenyans. I sit in the bipartisan team that they have taken out, and we now understand why they recalled their members who sat with us and had issues if they were unwilling to have a conversation, all because their interest has all allowed them to create chaos in the name of seeking for the interest of Kenyans. Remember, they have not sent anything relevant to the interest of the Kenyans to Parliament. None of their members have advanced a position that will support what they are saying as regards the interest of the people. And we are saying we are tired as Kenyans, we are tired as leaders, and enough is enough. Mr. Raila and your team, time is up for you to accept the fact that you lost and you have a legitimate government in office that will deal with incidences including that happened yesterday, and there isn't any handshake available to your team. I thank you all.
I also want to have my voice on behalf of the people of Oibet constituency, where I said to tell Raila that you are mutated from being a leader and now you are becoming a bandit, and you are bandit with your gang. The likes of Honorable Martha Karwatiwala, and all grandparents. We should be staying at home and taking care of your grandchildren. You've come too much. We are tired. We are going to be with you as a government. We are going to be with you vertically and perpendicularly. We are going to stop this, and we are giving you a warning that you should stop this. Otherwise, your days are numbered.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Cherargei, Senator Nandi County. Mine are two things. I want to confirm to the country that the act of lawlessness, anarchy, and destruction of the property sponsored by Azimio Kenya Land, Mr. Raila Odinga and Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, we are well documenting them on onward to ICC, International Criminal Court. Number two, we are also condemning the acts of violence that we have seen across the country. Since the Azimio Kenya Land, Uhuru and Raila non-peaceful demonstration, because there is no day Raila Odinga has done peaceful demonstrations, we have documented each and every death, each and every destruction, and in fullness of time we are writing to ICC to ensure, because Mr. Odinga and Mr. Kenyatta are culprits and perpetrators that are good customers of ICC. Number two, I want to assure Mr. Odinga that whether he wakes up in the morning, demonstrate each and every day, there is no room to bulldoze himself into government, either through handshake, either through arrangement or consultation. So that is a foregone story. Elections were done, and it is done and done. Finally, is as they plan, because I have heard through rumors that they, or through some of their people, that they are planning Mandamano from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We are also planning to do a peaceful sitting at Current, where Mr. Raila Odinga stays, at Mudaega, where Uhuru Kenyatta stays, and across their farms in the country peacefully, and asking them, why are they destroying our lives? Why are they killing us? Why are they stealing from us? Why are they maiming and raping our women? That would be our message, peacefully sitting in. And I want to ask them to prepare a lot of chai and mandazi. We'll come and as we take tea and mandazi, we shall be consulted them. So that they prepare from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all their homes across the country will be peacefully sitting in and ensure that we communicate our message. And we'll come in peace. But Mr. Raila Odinga, finally, elections were done and dusted. My only thing I can tell you, there's a song that says, Enda usikie vibaya huko kweli.
Wacha nibadilishe lugha kidogo, tutumie lugha yetu ya Swahili, na nianze na kusema ya kwamba ni jambo la kusikitisha sana kwa yale viongozi wa upinzani wanafanya, ambapo ni maandamano ambayo hayako katika katiba yetu. Maandamano ambayo yanafanya sio maandamano ya amani na sio maandamano ya haki. Wamama na watoto wameumia, watoto wamekosa kwenda shule kwa sababu ya haya. Na ni nzuri sana kwa sababu vile tunavyozungumza bajeti ambayo tumepitisha ni inahusisha fedha ambazo Mheshimiwa Kalonzo, Mheshimiwa Raila wanalipwa fidea kama former prime minister na kama former vice president. Wanapokea fedha, wanaishi vizuri, serikali inawashughulikia. Watoto wao pia wamewekwa vizuri na wako sawa, familia zao ziko sawa. Watoto wa Wakenya wamewezeshwa kuhusishwa katika maandamano kufanya mambo ambayo hayafai. Na nazungumza na vijana pia nikisema mwache kuhusishwa katika mambo ambayo hayawataweza kuwasaidia, kuharibu zile ambazo sisi kama Wakenya tumeweza kutengeneza. Mahali ambapo umefikia Bwana Raila, tunakuambia kwamba kubali, asiyekubali kushindwa sio kushindana, Waswahili walisema. Na kusonga mbele, wazungu walisema when you rattle a snake be ready to be bitten. Tumevumilia, tumekupa sikio, tumejaribu kufanya ile inaitwa bipartisan talk. Umeyakataa kwa sababu mambo ambayo waleta kwa meza ni mambo ya ubinafsi, mambo yako mwenyewe. Na kusonga mbele, sisi kama Kenya Kwanza tutashughulikia mambo yote ya wananchi, kuanzia yule aliye chini kufikia yule aliye juu. Mambo tunayoleta ya finance ni mambo yanahusisha kila Mkenya, lakini mambo yako ni mambo ya binafsi. Destruction ambayo umeharibu vifaa pale katika SGR, vijana wetu wamekufa 9 kufikia hapo, na haujazungumza, hauna shughuli. Sisi kama viongozi hatutakubali hayo. Tutaungana na rais wetu kumshika mkono kuhakikisha kwamba Wakenya wanapata amani wakati wanafanya kazi zao. Investors ambao wanakuja nchini wako na environment nzuri ya kufanya kazi na kuendeleza uchumi wa nchi hii. Manifesto tunayo sisi kama Kenya Kwanza, hatutatishika, hatutachoka, tutazidi kuweka Mungu mbele na kutia ile bidii ambayo inafaa kuhakikisha ya kwamba tumeweza kudeliver kulingana na ile sisi tuliahidi. Kwa hayo mengi na machache, Bwana Raila, tupe nafasi tufanye kazi sasa.
high priest of poverty. The man who is now here, for him to exist, he has to sacrifice some of his life. Indeed, he's a devil, because anybody who has to stand for someone's life to exist is nothing else other than a devil. The deaths, the destruction in so yesterday is clear that one Raila Amolo Odinga has nothing to do, no agenda for this country. I want to ask our president that time is enough. It's time for everyone. As even the Bible tells us, it's time to do with Raila Square. There is nothing much to be scared more than what we did yesterday. Destructions of property and loss of life all over the country. There is nothing to do with that. It is time to address this person once and for all. If there are people who think that they can scare this Kenya, let them do. We are ready as a Kenya Kwanza government to stand by the rights of the people as per the constitution. And remember, it's a legit government. It was voted by the people of Kenya, and it was approved by the Supreme Court of Kenya. Lastly, I want to call upon all the other leaders. One, the governor of Kisumu, who by yesterday evening did some tweets and circulated, victimizing communities with an intention of creating animosity among the communities who neighbor each other. We want to ask Kenyans to uphold peace and calmness, even as the nation is fearing to address the issues that we are facing, which are extra challenges beyond even the boundaries of Kenya. We want to ask that we need to uphold our peace. Let's stay together. Let us not fall into the snare of these people who they told us even before election that their intention to bring anarchy. And I want to confirm, even for those proponents of ICC, it is now high time for them to establish the fact that the proponents and the perpetrators of atrocities that was caused in 2007 are now here. One, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga. Those are their victims, and they need to come for them. They don't need much evidence. The facts that are lying in ICC now have come out clear that these are the people, they cannot leave unless they see the country is in constitution. And we need to tell them, Kenya belongs to all of us. It is not an enterprise of an individual for you to live only when you profit. And when it's not profiting you, you want to cause mayhem and destruction. Thank you so much.
Good.